So over the last few months, I've delivered a bunch of strategy and execution workshops to both new and existing clients. And as we lead up towards the workshops, the same points often get asked. I thought it was about time to capture those points and the answers to them in a simple and short video. So here are those points and the answers to them. I hope they're useful. A strategic execution workshop is primarily about three things. Firstly, it's about making sure that the leadership team is healthy and aligned, that they're working effectively together as a team, and also they are very clear on their accountabilities at both a functional and a process perspective. Then it's ensuring that the leadership team has clarity on the strategy that they are pursuing as an organization. And then lastly, it's about making sure that we have a high-level execution plan over 3 months, 12 months, and 3 years that makes that strategy real. So in summary, firstly, healthy leadership team. Secondly, clarity on the strategy, so crystal clear strategy. And thirdly, it's about an execution plan that makes it real. My clients run strategic execution workshops in one of two situations. They're either running them as part of their annual planning process, so leading into or just after the start of the financial year. So May, June, July is a pretty common time to run strategic execution workshops, and that's normally my busiest time. But outside of that, I also run strategic execution workshops right the way through the year for CEOs and leadership teams when they've realized that either they don't have a strategic plan or that the one they do have needs to be refreshed. So the answer to that point really is you would run a strategic execution workshop when you need to. Where should they be held? Well, ideally off-site, but the real reason for that is to get the leadership team into an environment where they can get away from the day-to-day distractions of running the business. So I try and run my workshops off-site, hotels or conference centres. But if you do have a place or a space where you can minimise interruptions, it's also okay to run them on-site also. So these workshops are based on a bunch of different frameworks, tools and techniques, but primarily around two sources. Firstly, scaling up, the Gazelle's framework and toolkit, and secondly, the book The 3-Hag Way by Shannon Burns-Susko. The first book, Scaling Up, is really around the high-level strategy, execution and team health. And the 3-Hag Way is all about going more into the detail about how you actually plan the execution of your strategy. So two key sources, but we also bring in a whole bunch of other tools and techniques from thought leaders like Patrick Lencioni and Jim Collins and Alex Osterwalder. We really use the tools that are best suited to address the challenge that the clients are facing. So these workshops are structured around the Scaling Up one-page strategic plan. The one-page strategic plan is a simple plan on a page that allows you to capture your strategy and your high-level execution plan on a single page, which helps that you communicate that with the rest of your team. So the one-page strategic plan is split up into two different sections. On the left-hand side, we have the strategy section. And on the right-hand side, that's more the focus, or that is where we focus on execution. So let me talk first of all to the strategy section. The strategy section is all about understanding the core of the organization. So what are the values, the guiding principles that shape all of our decision making within the organization? And what is the core purpose, or what is the motivation of the founder when he first created this organization, because that really is the lifeblood of the organization. Once we've understood the core of the organization, we move on to the big, hairy, audacious goals. So what is the long-term, the 10, 15, 20-year hairy, audacious goal that is almost intentionally unachievable? So we want to stretch the organization. We want to set a goal that is so far out there, it's not intimidating, but it's a real stretch goal for the organization. Once we understand that, we can start understanding who is the core customer that's going to take us there. Who is the core customer that is going to pay a premium for what we do because they value our products and services. So they are going to pay a premium, they're going to buy repeatedly from us, but they're also going to refer new customers to us because they really value what we do. Understanding the attributes of the core customer is critical, because if we understand the attributes, what we can then do is we can understand what we need to do as an organization to be able to fulfill those needs and wants and desires by giving them what they're specifically looking for. And that really is key to this. If we can do that, we can understand our differentiating activities. So the things we either do now better than anyone else, or the things that we need to put in place so that we can build the ability to deliver them better than anyone else. And that then positions us uniquely in the market, in that we now have a position that is different to anyone else, because we don't want to be the best. We want to be different, or we want to do things differently. And that's what creates the white space that allows us to have a near uncontested or barely contested market, which is a much more comfortable place to be than a contested market. So once we understand our core, once we understand our BHAG, once we understand our core customer and the differentiating activities we need to do, we can shape our 3-year highly achievable goal. So the goal that is 12 quarters out, 36 months out, and we can reach out and touch that. That's close enough to really be able to reach out and touch. And that really lays down the foundation for our strategy over the long term and the medium term, so 3 years and beyond. From there, we then move on to our execution plan, and that's what we'll come on to now. So these 4 columns here, we now move on to the execution side of the workshop. And when we say execution, what we're talking about is, what do we want to focus on over the next year that gets us pretty much a third of a way towards our 3-year highly achievable goal? And more specifically, what do we want to focus on for the next 90 days that get us pretty much a quarter of a way to our 1-year plan? So the first column in the execution side is all about the 1 year. So what are the targets that we are going to aim for? Could be financial targets, could be non-financial targets, could be more organizational targets. And what are the things we need to do? So what are our 1-year priorities that we are going to direct nearly all of our resources on to delivering over the year? So that is we capture those in this first column on the left-hand side of the execution section. The next 3 columns that sit over here, these are all about this quarter. So the way the plan works is that this first page over here doesn't change year on year, whereas this part of the plan here changes quarter on quarter. Every 90 days, we redo this part of the 1-page plan, so that the quarterly plan is always up to date with where we're going over the quarter. So the first column on this second page, the second half of the document, is all about the company's priorities over the next 90 days. So what are we going to focus on for the next 90 days? What are our quarterly rocks, our quarterly priorities, and how are we going to measure on how we're tracking on achieving them? So we look at our targets for the next 90 days. We also identify critical numbers that best express how we are tracking on achieving those targets. Now, I'll skip the middle column on this side of the plan for the moment. I'll come back to that. The column on the far right is all about the individual priorities. So what, as an individual on the leadership team, do we need to be focusing on for the next 90 days? So these are distinct from the company priorities in that they are ours. As a member of the leadership team, this is what I am going to focus on. Now, that will obviously be different for each member of the leadership team, and this is a way of tracking individual leadership team accountabilities and how they then delegate those down to their teams and beyond. The column in the middle is all about how do we build a bit of buzz around our focus for the next 90 days. How do we create a theme that creates a bit of excitement in the organization, that rallies the troops around us and creates a bit of fun, a bit of entertainment, just a bit of gamification, if you like, that helps us move towards the 90-day target as an organization. So this column is all about identifying a theme. It could be something crazy, it could be something a bit more conventional, it could be 10 new clients over the next 90 days. It could be, you could be based on a film or a theatre piece, or a piece of news that's sort of current that could be a bit ironic or a little bit funny. And at the end of the 90 days, you use that theme as a way of marking or celebrating or rewarding the team on achieving that outcome. And if you don't achieve it, well, mark it anyway, but maybe you're not quite so lavish about how you mark it. So that covers the 4 columns on the execution side of the plan. Obviously, as well as that, within the workshop, we also cover aspects of people and cash. So we looking at functional accountability, process accountability, team health, and on the cash side of things, we look at things like how do we move money through the organization as quickly as possible so we can realize profit more quickly. And we also look at the economic drivers of profit within the business, and how can we adjust those drivers backwards and forwards to maximize profit over time within the business. So there we're talking about pricing, we're talking about volume, we're talking about cost of goods sold and overheads, and payables and receivables. How can we tweak those to maximize the amount of cash we have, because we want to get as much cash as we can that we can reinvest back into the business to start delivering more profit, so that we can track towards those longer term targets. So that very, very quickly is what we cover in a workshop. Very, very fast paced, very, very intensive. They're also a lot of fun. Yeah, we cover a lot of ground over the 2 days. These workshops are designed to be very, very intense, very, very fast paced. We have a lot of ground to cover, so we need to move fast. If we're going to take your leadership team out of the business for 2 days, then what they spend their time on has to be useful, and has to be valuable, and it has to be instantly actionable when they get back to the business. So we drive the days hard, and we squeeze as much as possible out of the 2 days that is feasible. In terms of, is it a long time to take the leadership team out of the business? Well, you have to balance the amount of time you spend working on the business with the time you spend working in the business, and that's a critical thing that you need to bear in mind. So if you take no time to work on the business, then you just end up being highly operational and reactive. If you spend too much time working on the business, then you don't achieve the outcomes that you're looking to do. So we try and balance that by spending time annually on an annual strategic planning session like these, and then quarterly and monthly, but minimizing the actual time you spend by being very, very focused and very, very clear on what you're doing at each of those specific meetings. Then you get the right balance there. So this has been very, very well structured and very, very well designed, so that we get the leadership team out in an environment where they can be highly, highly productive over those 2 days, so that when they get back into the business, they're there with actionable input that helps them be even more productive over time. So yes, we cover a huge amount of ground, but the time we spend on these workshops normally gets repaid many, many times over once you're back in the business with the actionable output from the workshops. So these workshops are really aimed at the CEO and his or her leadership team. So whoever he or she thinks are critical to the effective running of the business, that's who should go. So normally it's the CEO and his or her direct reports. They normally last for either 1 or 2 days. For smaller organizations, I run 1-day workshops. They're very tight, to be honest. It's a lot to cover in a single day, and you do have to drop some of the content out. For most organizations, I run these workshops over 2 days. Sometimes I've run them over 3 days, where there's a specific challenge to address, normally either around leadership team health or around a specific aspect of the strategy that we need to spend more time on. But in summary, CEO and his or her leadership team, and 2 days. The workshops can either be standalone or part of an ongoing coaching program. Some clients come to me and they want They want that ongoing coaching, they want that ongoing support, they want the ongoing accountability that they get from working with a business coach, and that's really the way the workshops are designed to be. But sometimes clients come to me and they say, look, we just want a 2-day workshop and we'll take it from there. That's absolutely fine. Often I find that when clients do that, later on they come back and they say, well, actually, yeah, we do want that support, we do want that business coaching, we do want that accountability monthly. So they then come on and join an ongoing coaching program, and that's absolutely fine. We just pick it up from where we left off at the workshop. So the choice is up to the CEO, either standalone or as part of an ongoing coaching arrangement, and you can switch from one to the other, no problem. So I recorded this video to address the points I often get asked by clients as they move into the workshop process. I hope this video has answered the questions you might have. If you want more information about workshops in any form, please give me a call on 61 for Australia 0415 534 239, or drop me an email at workshops@crystalyzer.com. That's Crystalyzer with a Z. I hope this video has been informative and useful. Thank you for your time.